Welcome everyone to the trade setup. Today is February 12th, 2022. I'm going to go over what to expect in the stock market in the coming weeks. As a reminder, Trade Setup is not a registered security broker, investment advisor, or financial advisor registered with the SEC. Okay, so last week we had a very interesting week. CPI data came out, and we were expecting a 7.2% increase from last year. Instead, we got a inflation rise in 7.5% over the past year. It's much more than expected. And as a result, we saw 10-year Treasury bonds jump above 2%, and tech started to suffer. Also, in the real estate world, mortgage applications dropped about 10%, and the rise in interest rates appears to have decreased demand in house buying. So we're expecting housing prices to come down as a result. Okay, so now this week, some events to look forward to. We have PPI month over month, January, coming out on Tuesday. Core retail sales, and crude oil inventories, with a main focus on FOMC meeting minutes. Okay. One thing to kind of keep an eye on is this crude oil inventory. After last week, when we had news of Russia potentially invading Ukraine, oil prices shot up naturally. And it would be interesting to see how oil prices kind of move as this conflict progresses. FOMC meeting minutes will be under the radar. I'm sorry, on the radar. It would be on focus. And what we're going to look for is any indication that the Fed is going to tighten policy towards increasing interest rates much faster than anticipated, as the last data point on inflation is much higher than expected. Okay, and then building permits on Thursday along with initial jobless claims, Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Index, and then existing home sales. The building permits and home sales will be something to keep an eye on, again, as mortgage applications dropped and there's an expectation of rising interest rates. There should be a less demand for house buying. So let's see if this kind of reflects into home sales in January and how it progresses through the month of February into March. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is go over SPX. Now, if you're new here, I typically start with SPX QQQ, provide a brief overview of what the market is doing, and then we'll dive into some of the main stocks that we tend to trade in our Discord. So last week we had a very interesting week. I believe we had a nice little on the 28th we had a nice rally. That was a Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday we had a rip higher into the 4580 range for SPX. I believe on Friday we saw a double top almost breaking at the neckline. So this was Friday. We got news from potential Russia invasion into Ukraine, and in our Discord we observed this double top, okay, and 44.65 as our neckline, and below that we saw a flush. Now the news did help with the play out of the double top. However, the move was quite extended on panic. Okay, so what I'm looking for this week is very simple. Let's take a look at see if 43.95 holds this week. And so if it does, $4,500 calls can work towards 44.65. This is where I would consider exiting because there is a strong structure here that can act as resistance. We have sold off in this range previously. again here as well. So 44.65 would be the target if 43.95 holds either Monday into Tuesday to play calls. If, however, we see, let's say, a rally on Monday towards 44.65, Tuesday we pull back to 43.94, 43.95, and start seeing weakness, it's possible to play puts on Wednesday, 4,300 puts below 43.95 towards the downside into 43.25 range. Okay, so a couple ways to kind of slice and dice this. Let's see where the futures open on Monday morning, and then we can kind of assess how to go about playing this. Okay. Next one, let's take a look at QQQ. Tech typically hurts the most when we have movement with interest rates rising and bond yields going up. Tech tends to sell off the most. So we kind of saw that worry as inflation started to, inflation data point was a little bit above expected. And then obviously the Russia news didn't help. So with QQQ this week, what we're looking at is very simple, 348.93. Can it get back above it? Okay, so this is going to be a quick trade. If we start seeing strength on Monday above 348.93, possible to see this thing run back to 353.34, at which point I would cut the call, right? Take an exit here. We've seen this area act as a support multiple times with a nice rally, okay? And so this can easily act as a resistance now. And we can see that the previous few candles back here on the 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th of February kind of held in this range and was range bound. So look for 353 as a resistance. Possible to go short there as we are in a general downtrend, right? We're making lower lows, lower highs. So possible to see this act as a resistance area to go short. But as of right now, above 348.93, could play quick calls following price action. Now, under the same kind of logic, let's say Monday we rally, play calls towards 353. Tuesday we sell back down here. Below 345, it's possible to play puts down to 340 range. And here's where we have a decent amount of structure to kind of hold the price up this range. Okay, so possible to see this area hold one more time, potentially forming a double bottom. If, however, we start closing below this 337 level on the daily, it's possible we see more downside coming in. Okay, so kind of be mindful of that for a bigger play. The best trade is above 369.82 to play calls. So above 369.82 is the A plus setup to play calls, and then below 337.39 is the A plus setup to play puts. Okay, so anything in between, these are just quick trades. Same logic going back for SPX. Above 45, 80, 57. This is the best place to play calls. Okay, the A plus setup where you're gonna catch 50 to 100 points, right? As well, and then puts on the downside. Kind of watch to see if 42.80 SPX starts closing below 42.80 range. It's at this point I would start considering puts as the buyers that are holding up the price here will no longer be there if we start closing below this area. Okay. All right. So let's go over some tech names. Let's go over Apple. Apple's been resilient to the current movement in the market right now. So as of right now, there's only some quick trades to take on Apple. Above this 169.90, let's call it 170 mark. Possible to see it go back towards 171, 172. The best setup is above 177. So if Apple can get back above 177.57, it can easily test 182, the previous highs. If, however, this week Apple fails to defend 167.82, which is this range right here, I'm going to highlight it. Puts can work below towards 165, and you could see that we've had areas where this level has acted as resistance, and then once we break above it, it's acted as support right here and right here, and kind of held on Friday. Okay, so watch this level this week, 167.82. Want to see it hold. If it fails to hold that area, its puts can work below towards 165, even possibly down towards 162, 160 on a continuation. Take a look at AMD. Okay, AMD. So tech stocks took a tumble, and more specifically, a lot of the chip stocks took a hit. Okay, so this week for AMD, again, the best setup is technically above 132.72 to play calls, and then puts below 98.66 is the best setup for the downside. However, there's an average trade that can be taken this week. So above 114.62, possible to play calls back towards 118. Okay, and then below 111.58, puts can work down towards 107, even 103 before we start seeing some buyers step up again. In both cases, what we're looking for is, well, if we're selling off and the market is weak, does the price come back down to the lows created at the end of January, and do we create a double bottom, effectively creating a double bottom and then bouncing back towards all-time highs? Or do we come back towards the $100 range, and then do we see more weakness? Do we see buyers stepping up here? We fail to see buyers stepping in at this range one more time, possible to see this thing come back down even further. If, however, buyers step up in this $100 range one more time on this back test, possible to see this thing go back up, forming a double bottom, and then above 132.72, calls can work. Next, let's take a look at Amazon. So Amazon's an interesting one. I believe there's multiple ways to kind of play this one. So Amazon, off the bat, the best setup is for calls above 32.85.52 range. Okay, so this is an A plus setup. And then best for puts is below, kind of right now, 30.78.68 is an area I would watch. I would watch this area this week to see if it holds, primarily because there is a big gap here, and we could continue for a gap fill off the downside momentum that we gained on Friday. So on Monday, watch to see if 30.78 acts as resistance, and if it does, puts can work towards the downside, all the way down towards 29.20, and then 28.71 is where I would start considering an exit, as the gap fill would be complete. Okay, so calls can work if we start seeing strength on Monday, even possibly Tuesday, above 30.78. Let's say this level starts holding. It's possible we could see a quick move back up towards 3127. Again, this is an average trade towards the upside for calls. The best trade for calls is above 32.85. Okay, so I prefer to play puts on this one. Would be preferable based on the way this is setting up. So let's see how let's see how the stock behaves on Monday. Okay. take a look at Google. So Google had fantastic earnings. We gapped up, couldn't break the $3,000 level. Kind of started getting above it, but then sellers did step right back in to bring the price lower. We eventually started the gap fill and completed it, and then bounced for 2 days only to make a lower high, and then we ended up making a lower low. So this week, what I'm looking at is, can 266362 hold on a back test? So we've seen buyers step in here before and the price rally. We've seen the buyer step in again here and the price rally. Here we kind of broke below it and then we stayed below it. So this is an interesting zone to kind of keep an eye on for Google. So between 2623 and 2663, watch to see if the price holds this week in this range. If it can, possible to play calls towards the upside on a bounce, a back test hold and a bounce. If, however, we start seeing weakness below 2623, puts can work. Okay, so by weakness, I mean, do the buyers step in again, right? Buyers stepped in previous times, sellers kind of stepped in here. So this is an area where buyers and sellers are battling it out. Best to watch who's at strength here. If buyers are at strength, holding this price level, possible to see a push higher. And then if buyers are weak and sellers are at strength, then possible to see this thing come back down towards 2,500 to form, again, another possible double bottom for the price to rally back up again. So best setup is for calls above this 2857 range. So 2832, 2857 range. That's the A plus setup. Okay. We've seen this area. You have a rally, base rally, test from the top, hold, break down below. And then once it retests from the bottom, we get a rejection off this particular zone. One more rejection. Finally breakthrough with volume. And then a retest from the top, hold, comes back down here. Base is out, we get another push. Base is out, we get another push. Breaks below, stays below, gaps through for earnings. Breaks below it, comes back from the bottom, retests and rejects as a higher, lower high, and then we're back down here. So short story is this is an area of high interest, right? As you can see how the price action plays and dances around this particular zone, this is an area of high interest. So if we can start printing green candles between 2832, 2857, we could rally back towards all-time highs, right? Towards the 3,000 mark. So best setup for calls is above 2857.18 to play the upside. Everything down here that we just discussed, these are bounce plays. These are quick trades to be taken. Nothing to hold. Okay, let's take a look at Goldman Sachs. Okay, so this is one bank that we want to keep an eye on. Not so much of a bank, but we like to look at this as a representation of the financial sector. They're not, truly a financial sector, but it's something that we like to trade and keep an eye on at the trade setup. So, this week we're watching 358.91. Can this area hold? If this area fails, possible to see it go down to 350, 345. So puts below 358.91 can work towards the downside, and then above 376.97, which is this top, calls can work towards the upside. So very simple trade. Possible to see if we're playing the puts and we see weakness in the market below 358, puts can work down towards 350. 350 is where I would kind of scale out, just because we've seen this area hold before, right? So buyers we had Okay, so we had we had an all-time high here, right, and then a sell-off, and then a rally-based rally, effectively creating a zone, and then a retest from the top, and then buyer stepped in again, pushed this thing higher. We got another test at the bottom. Buyer stepped in again, pushed this thing higher. And now the next time we're kind of coming down into this range is right around here. We did have buyers step in here. If we zoom in, there's a wick talking about a rejection towards the downside. But eventually buyers were taken out by sellers, and then we saw a move down, and then you can see the zone now acted as a resistance point in the recent past. We finally got back above it, so let's see how it behaves here. I suspect that this is going to be another area where buyers try to hold this area one more time if it comes back on a back test. So if you're playing puts below 358.91, this is an area where I'm going to likely exit and then assess what the price action looks like. Are the buyers back at strength here, or are sellers still in control? Sellers are in control, possible to see this thing go down even further, even down towards 335.27. Okay, let's take a look at Microsoft. This is another one of those stocks that's been resilient, even though it has come down quite a bit from its all-time highs. Overall, this stock hasn't been doing too bad. So for this week, what we're looking for is can 294.34 hold, right? So this area we kind of held here multiple times in the past, right? So that's one. I want to identify this guy right there. Okay, so we'll come back to this level. This area we've held here quite a few times here. We even formed a rally-based rally. And then over here, we've seen buyers trying to hold this area and then bounce back up. So this week, I'm looking at 294.34. If it fails to hold, possible to play puts towards 290 before we see some support. And the support I'm looking at is actually here. This particular region, there's a nice little area to kind of keep an eye out. Let me zoom right back in. Okay, so this structure right here, this particular area, I would kind of start keeping an eye on to see if buyers kind of hold the line here. Okay, so 290 all the way down to kind of 280, 281. We're looking for buyers to take over in this particular range. And if they do, it is possible to see this thing push back higher after coming into this particular zone. So we've had a rally, base rally, retest from the top, hold this area, and then we've kind of pushed higher from here. So the previous backtest, we had an extension down here, but buyers still started picking it back up and pulled this thing up. Let's see if the buyers step in again. Okay, if we are to test this area one more time, let's see if the buyers step in one more time to form a double bottom and then push this thing towards the top. If, for example, 281 starts to fail, we close below this on the daily, puts can work towards the downside. For calls, I would wait till 315, right? So this is kind of an area that has been a resistance area recently. And so above 315 is the best setup towards the upside. Okay, so next, let's take a look at Nvidia. Very similar price movement to AMD, both chip stocks. Okay, so for Nvidia this week, the best setup for calls is above 272.29. So waiting for this, you could see that this area has acted as support. Okay, and then more recently, it's this particular area from 270, 272 has acted as resistance. So above this level, 280 calls can work. If this week we see this 239.24 level fail to hold, okay, then possible to play puts below this level towards 230, 231. So this area has held as a higher low if we're to consider this the new trend, right here. And we made a higher high. We did make a higher high. Now, can this particular area right here, can this area hold? If it fails to hold, then this is going to be seen as a double top, right? This is one top right here, and then here's another top right there. And then 239.24 is your neckline. So let me okay, so double top here, and then another double top here, and this area 239 will be seen as the neckline, and so below 239 puts can work towards the downside. I'd wait for 272.30 to clear before considering calls on Nvidia. Okay, let's take a look at Shopify. Shopify has earnings coming up. So earnings is a binary event. You know, I don't really have a bias towards any one side, but as of right now, the charts are looking, they're looking okay as of right now. We did see a nice push down. Shop did try to back test 1,000, and then it just reversed lower. So you know, there's a quick trade this week above 926.58 calls can work. $1,000 calls can work towards 989. The best setup is technically above this 1012 mark. Okay, so calls above this can start working. We've this 1012 area has held as support previously, so it will act as resistance on the first touch. Be mindful of that. But once we start closing above this on the daily, we could see a directional change back up. Okay, and then below 849.96, even better is below 820 puts can work. Okay, so I expect the premiums to be a little bit expensive this week as we get closer to earnings. And then just because the volatility in the market is just extremely high because of the uncertainty regarding inflation, potential interest rate increase, and then now with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, premiums overall in the market are really high. Volatility is very high, and volatility being high can be a very good thing for us in the market as traders, as day traders. We just have to be careful how we position ourselves throughout the week. Okay, and then finally, let's get one last one. Let's look at Tesla. We tend to trade this one quite often. All right, so Tesla, you know, there's not really much to do with Tesla here. I think there's a quick trade below this 868 mark, right? So a previous area of resistance right here, we got a rally-based rally and a push higher. And then this area, let me just highlight it so you guys can take a look. Okay, so previous high acted as a top resistance, came back down, and then we got a rally-based rally. Retest from the top, a nice bounce. We caught most of this move. We caught most of this move. Again, we bounced one more time off that level, and now we're back here. So when the price starts closing inside a previous, so this was a supply zone turned demand zone. When the price starts closing inside a demand zone from the top, very likely a bearish sign. So buyers are no longer present. Previously, buyers were present. They're no longer here. So this week, I would look to play puts if we start seeing weakness in Tesla below 868.35 towards the downside. The best setup for calls is above 936, 940. So above this, we can get a nice push towards the $1,000 mark, 998.54. Okay, so calls above 936.96 can work. Puts below 968.35 can work on more seller control. Okay. Okay, so that's all I have for today. Be careful this week. A lot of macroeconomic news uh, driving the stock market. So a lot of panic right now. And then when there is panic, technical analysis sometimes goes out the window. Okay, so even if you see a bullish setup, uh, if suddenly we get a eye-grabbing headline that instills panic in the market, then it's possible that the setup is not going to work, right? So, um, you know, be flexible with the setups that were outlined today, and be mindful of what's happening in the world, as this can affect. These are external factors that can affect the stock market. Finally, if you enjoy this type of content, please give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and then subscribe to our channel on YouTube. If you like to join our community of Platinum members, please visit thetradesetup.com and sign up for a 2-week free trial. You get access to our Discord. You get access to our algo levels that are supplemented with the day trading aspect of it. What you saw today are macro levels. We now fine tune into our algorithms to adjust and perfect our entry and take profit exits and stop losses. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. We'll try to put out more content every week for you guys. We hope to see you soon and wish you all the best this coming week. Thank you very much.